This is one of those questions that sounds almost too obvious to ask until you actually start digging into the specifics, and then it turns into one of the most genuinely fascinating rabbit holes in ancient human survival. Imagine a small village nestled in the shadows of a dense forest. Around 3000 BC, a child, feverish and weak, lies on a straw mat while a healer crushes dried herbs with a stone, whispering incantations passed down through generations. There's no bottle of penicillin to reach for, yet somehow, across millennia, humanity survived. So, how did ancient humans manage to fend off infections without antibiotics? And why did some of these methods appear with such consistency across disparate cultures and time periods? Let's start with the concept of herbalism, sometimes referred to as botanical medicine. At its core, it's the use of plants and plant extracts to treat illnesses. The mechanism here is fairly straightforward. Many plants contain natural compounds that have antibacterial properties. Take willow bark, for instance. Ancient Egyptians used it as early as 1550 BC to treat fevers and pain. This isn't just folklore. Willow bark contains salicin, a precursor to modern aspirin, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Another example comes from traditional Chinese medicine, where garlic was used extensively. Some researchers believe garlic was used in ancient times to ward off infections, thanks to its compound allicin, which has potent antibacterial effects. Now, here's where things get intriguing. Not every plant was beneficial. Some could be toxic or ineffective, which seems like it should have posed a problem. However, ancient cultures often relied on empirical testing and oral traditions to sort out which plants worked. This trial and error method, guided by generational knowledge, shows a sophisticated understanding of their world. This careful selection process was not unlike modern pharmacology, but without the lab coats. The broader point is that herbalism provided a natural pharmacy that, albeit inconsistent, was effective enough to sustain populations. But how did these cultures even know which plants were safe or effective? This introduces us to sympathetic magic, also known by the anthropological term correspondence theory. The idea is that materials that resemble a disease or its symptoms could cure it. This is why certain cultures believe that eating red plants could heal blood disorders, under the logic that like heals like. For example, in the Middle Ages, the doctrine of signatures suggested that plants resembling body parts could be used for ailments in those parts. Walnuts for the brain because they look like little brains. A vivid example comes from ancient Mesopotamia, where liver-shaped plants were used to treat liver diseases. Many of these plants contained compounds active against the symptoms they were targeting. Similarly, indigenous cultures in North America used bloodroot, which has a red sap, to treat blood-related diseases. This wasn't just symbolic. The plant contains sanguinarine, a compound with antimicrobial properties. But here's a real twist. Not all resemblances led to effective treatments. Some attempts based solely on appearance could be outright dangerous or simply ineffective. This forces us to question how they separated successful treatments from failures. In many cases, it was sheer perseverance, adding another layer to our understanding of how ancient people navigated health without modern technology. But here's a pressing question. If their treatments were so empirical, how did they handle the unpredictability of infection itself? Enter the idea of hygiene rituals, sometimes described as cultural sanitation. These practices weren't always about cleanliness as we understand it today, but were crucial in minimizing disease risk. Ancient societies, like the Romans, championed public baths and aqueducts, which reduced disease transmission by maintaining a form of communal cleanliness. Archaeological evidence points to soap-like substances used in Babylon around 2200 BC, which, while primitive, broke down fats and bacteria alike. Then consider the elaborate purification rituals in Hindu traditions, described as early as 1500 BC in the Rig Veda. These weren't just spiritual practices. They often involved washing hands and feet, an early nod to the importance of hygiene in preventing illness. However, these methods weren't foolproof. Waterborne diseases and other infections still plagued populations, which suggests these rituals had limitations. But when viewed as part of a broader survival strategy, they significantly increased the odds of averting illness. This layered approach to health without antibiotics raises the question, how did they deal with infections that did take hold? This leads us to the concept of innate immunity optimization, or as some historians call it, adaptive survival strategies. The idea here is that humans have always possessed natural defense mechanisms that could be bolstered through practices like good nutrition and communal support. For instance, diets rich in certain nutrients were known to boost resilience. Take the Inuit, whose fish-heavy diet, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, offered anti-inflammatory benefits and helped maintain robust immune systems. Additionally, communal living provided another layer of defense. For example, the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last hunter-gatherer societies, rely heavily on community support when someone falls ill. This social safety net not only helps the individual recover, but also facilitates knowledge transfer about effective treatments. But here's the thing, not every community had equal access to these resources, which could lead to disparities in survival rates. This suggests that while innate immunity and communal support were crucial, they weren't universally effective. Yet, they underline a sophisticated understanding of health, long before the advent of antibiotics. So, if ancient humans could survive like this, what does it teach us about resilience in the face of modern-day challenges? Returning to that simple village scene in 3000 BC, it's clear that survival wasn't just about fighting infection. It was about a comprehensive approach to health. The blend of herbal treatments, sympathetic magic, hygiene practices, and innate immunity strategies reveals a complex tapestry of survival tactics that are in many ways emblematic of human ingenuity. This intricate dance between knowledge and necessity allowed ancient humans to thrive in a world without antibiotics, offering timeless lessons in adaptability and resilience.